This episode of Out of Spec Reviews is brought to you by Magna. More on that later. Hello and welcome to another Out of Spec Reviews video. Welcome to beautiful Bailey, Colorado, and welcome to my new Range Rover. Can't wait to tell you about this car, tell you the story, how it came to be. I didn't know literally 4 hours ago I was even going to be seeing a Range Rover today, let alone buying one, and I am just so thrilled to share with you some details about the car, and we'll take it for our first drive and all that good stuff. So, my new Range Rover. So let me take you on a brief tour of the new rig and talk about why I got it really quick, and then we'll of course drive it home. We have a whole adventure to get back. But what time is it, Drew? Do you know? Our friend Drew's here.
7:30.
7:30. So we're going to be testing the headlights out on the way home. So 91 has the 3.9 liter V8, which is sort of the Gen 2, if you will. Then there was also, I think, a 4.2 that came in later ones. Later ones also in a short and long wheelbase. This one's the proper short wheelbase, which looks pretty good. Don't need to explain Range Rover history to you, I'm sure, but just a really important car for so many different reasons. Anyway, paint, unbelievably great condition, 188,000 miles plus or minus, but honestly feels so much better than the number would lead you to believe. Honestly, took it for a quick little test drive and no squeaks, no rattles, none of the typical stuff you'd expect to find in an old Range Rover. It seems to have been lived a really easy life. But of course, we're going to do fun things with it. We're going to take it off-road, going to put the dogs in it, but of course, take care of it as well. It's going to stick around in the garage for some time to come. This is sort of a bucket list item for me to own in my life. And honestly, I see no reason to ever get rid of it. I just think it's the right model, the right year, the right look. And let me show you inside because it's really aged wonderfully well. So take a look at this. It's got 3-speed with overdrive, automatic. They did make manual V8 options, which are incredibly rare. Perhaps one day if the transmission ever gives out, we'll do a manual swap on it. I could see us doing that. But take a look at the headliner as well. No sag. Sunroof opens and closes, which is really nice. But I just can't get over how well this car has fared. It's a California car, which means no rust. We looked in all the usual places and genuinely no rust, which is really wonderful. If you take a look in the back, it's got the tailgate, the typical Range Rover. If you just take a look here, pull down as it should be in an SUV. And yeah, just absolutely thrilled with it. Got it from my new friend Hugh. He's awesome. He's taken good care of it for the last year or so. And very, very good for me, actually, because it's a California vehicle and now it's in Colorado. So we just need to keep it clean, keep the salt and schmutz off of it. We'll keep it in the garage, of course. And what do you say we take it for our quick drive on the way back to Fort Collins? We have about, I don't know, 120 miles, something like that, to get back home in this thing. So definitely we'll get a little bit acquainted with it along the drive. Well, we're just down the hill from where we bought it, and it literally died pulling into the fuel pump, just stalled. I don't know, maybe it was just a weird little quirk, or maybe it was completely out of fuel. Just filled it up with 91 octane, 90 bucks worth. And Alyssa's over here in the e-tron, not even knowing what fuel is. Let me ask her really quick. Hey, what do you think of the Range Rover?
I think it's really cute.
Yeah, the dogs are going to look good in it, don't you think?
Oh, they'll look great in it.
Yeah, why don't you follow it? Let me know if anything like falls off the back.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I want to wreck my car with yours.
Well, just pick up whatever parts fall off. It's an old Range Rover. And yeah, man, I am just so pleased with this. It looks absolutely mint. But now we got to find out if she'll start up after just dying. So let's get the key out on a proper Range Rover, Land Rover of Anaheim Hills, California. This car is a Cali car. That means no rust. So key goes in somewhere. There we go. What do you think, Drew? You think she'll start?
I think so. I think there's fuel.
Okay.
Here we go. Have faith.
Yep. Immediately. She's great. Man, can't wait to cruise around in this. It says radio is useless if removed. Love all the US stickers.
You have 2 horns?
Yeah.
You have 2 horn options.
Yeah. Oh, that's wide open, baby. Temperature's coming up. best way to warm it up is to the floor. Wow, it feels great. And no rattles. Two rattles. That was just rip that out. I love a Range Rover. Just out taking the dogs for their first ride in the Range Rover. I think they are loving it. How you enjoying it, buddy? Happy, Ellie? This is a very particularly Ellie vehicle. Very golden retriever car. Blue, stay there. Don't jump out. Last thing we need is you damaging this. Looks nice. All right, I'm gonna close you guys back in there. Back up.
Aww.
There we go. All right, onwards. The adventure continues with the dogs. You're a very Range Rover style doggo. Oh, Range Rover. This episode is proudly brought to you by Magna. Magna is a mobility technology company that is super unique because they touch every aspect of almost every car on the market, especially a lot of electric vehicles, and they even can produce vehicles from the ground up. Now, you may remember I shot a series just recently testing some of their new electric vehicle powertrains, so stay tuned for a lot of Magna content to come. We're going to be going in depth with some really interesting topics with these guys, and Out of Spec wants to thank Magna for sponsoring this review and tons of other videos to come right here on Out of Spec. We look forward to working with Magna to define and find out what the future of mobility looks like. Well, now you join me back at the house with Judy. I have so much to update you on. I've had it about a week now, of course. And interestingly, I'm just noticing a piece of garbage wedged in the front. I don't know how that got there. Anyway, I'll put this inside to dispose of later. Judy, of course, in the beginning of this video, we picked her up at the previous owner's house. Very impromptu buying decision, and couldn't be more thrilled with it even 1 week on. I've driven her pretty much every day, and I'll explain why now I'm calling her Judy. I went through the other day all of the service records of the 91 Range Rover and found a name of a gentleman who kept popping up in the service history. Just decided to Google it randomly, and turns out he used to work for Land Rover. And he told me a little bit of the history of the car, where he had owned it for, I think he actually owned it twice, which is a little bit confusing. So why don't I, and his kids named it Judy, so why don't I take you on a tour of it, tell you everything that's going on, and while we go for a drive, I'll tell you the history, now that I know the full story of the Range Rover. I have all the service records, everything. It's really wonderful. I got such a gem here, and she's been running like a top. So a couple things I've noticed so far. There's just a little nick right here on the bar. So come on in, you'll take a look at that with me. And you'll see just a little nick, but seems like someone painted over, so it won't rust right here. The headlights and fog lights worked when I picked it up. However, this headlight bulb burnt out on the drive home, and I was like, whoa, it got dark all of a sudden. And I think it just was its time. Just needs a new headlight. Pretty funny. And we'll just try and find an original bulb. I don't want to put any of those new LED stuff in there. Another thing I've noticed that I would like to replace is this driving lamp down here is actually cracked. So we'll be looking for a new driving lamp on that. The tires, I don't know actually what the date code are on these tires. I don't think they're that old. Yeah, doesn't actually, it's gotta say somewhere. Anyway, gonna get new tires. I don't know what Black Lion tires are, but we're gonna get some good, probably Nokian Outpost AT tires is what I want to do. We just threw them on our Sprinter. They look pretty aggressive, but good on the road, and I think that'll be a good tire for this application at least. Everything is straight. Body lines are nice. This was supposed to be chrome, but was then vinyl wrapped black by my new friend who is a previous owner of this, so that's okay for me. Around the back, everything's been holding up. Scary moment, of course, you saw in the video, sunroof works, low range works as well. Been actually using it daily, so been opening up the top lid here. Does need some new gas struts, but it works. The tailgate works. I took some of the carpeting out, the protective carpeting. Just thought it didn't look that great, and now we're, you know, left to normal. But I've really gone through to look for rust, and this right here is the only rust I can kind of see on it. It looks like something must have scraped on this at some point, but that really genuinely is the only rust I can find on this vehicle, which, like, not even a big deal. Everything works. All the windows work. Air conditioning works, actually. Not great, but it does work. You know, I've taken you on a tour, so we've had people in the back seat, in the front seat. I've been thrilled with it. The title for this should have arrived actually sometime. We forgot to pick up the title, but it's coming. And then that means we can get our Colorado license plates on it. I don't know what we're gonna do for a plate. Maybe just keep it stock, or I was thinking, I really wanna do 4x4 by far, because the tagline for this was the best 4x4 by far. So I don't know if anyone's taken it, but that's what I would like to do. I'll show you quickly under the hood here, because I don't think I've shown you under the hood yet, and talk a little bit about the drivetrain as someone rips through a stop sign in our neighborhood. Crazy people. He did stop? Didn't stop. Yeah, no, that's what I said. So under here we have the very famous, actually desirable 3.9 liter V8. Originally these came with 3.5 carbureted. Then for a short period of time, those were fuel injected before they upgraded them to the 3.9. This is a 3.9 fuel injected, of course. And then I think they went to a 4.2 for the last few years. But the nice thing is about this, the 3.9s are very popular. Parts are available for them. They are just workhorses. And so parts are available, everything's good. Couple issues with this one. Oil, I think, might be more than a year old, I'm not sure. And the transmission fluid is way too high. Both the oil and the transmission fluid are like maxed out. So really need to get this serviced before I do any more long trips. I really probably shouldn't even have brought it over here. But it's okay, she's been fine daily driving, no issue. Just need to drain some stuff off. Yeah, there's an LED bulb in there, which I want to replace back to the original. This right here, you can see the original color, Beluga Black. So all factory paint. Nothing's been painted on this car. Never been in an accident, nothing like that. By the way, this seems to be one of the scarier things on this year, is this Wabco ABS braking system right here. And that, we'll have a story about that, which I'll share to you when we go for a drive. But this was the first year of ABS for Range Rover. It's got an unbelievably sharp pedal, really great brake pedal feel. Wabco no longer makes this part though, so we got to possibly service it, keep it alive. It calls for a brake fluid flush every 15,000 miles, which is like, I do that in a month sometimes, and so not in this obviously. So that will probably be once every 2 years by as much as I drive it, I would expect, but just gotta talk a little bit more about that. So let's jump inside and we'll go for an errand around. I'll tell you the history of Judy. Now that I know it, I'll tell you what I've done with it so far and what's to come in the future. Well, you join me inside Judy, and let's go start her up. So what I typically have been doing is I've just been waiting for the service engine light to go off before I crank it over. She starts right up, which is great. We'll turn the fans off just so you can hear everything. About this brake booster, it has to build up a certain amount of pressure for it to work. So typically if she sits overnight or for a couple days, I usually just wait for the brake light to go off and then we're good to go. So let's go for a drive. We already have high range. We'll just throw it in drive, and no cup holders in this thing. So Alyssa, you joined me as well. Where are we headed off to?
Sprouts.
Sprouts, what's that?
It's a grocery store.
Okay. In Loveland?
No, we have one right across the street from us.
Oh, okay.
You wouldn't know, would you?
No, I don't do much shopping. Oh, there's a cool Mitsubishi Delica our neighbor just got. Anyway, we're in Judy, and she's been wonderful. Typically, the way I drive her, just so you know, is they're pretty loose on the torque converter. So, see that change in revs just as I roll into it? That's all just in fourth gear. So I usually lock out top gear here and just knock it down into third. Especially as it gets some temperature in it, there's a massive 1-2 transmission clunk. under light throttle. If you're wide open and do a 1-2 shift, she shifts great. And then also anytime you go into reverse, it's like slam into reverse. And that's, I guess, these transmissions are pretty robust, but she's got 190,000 miles on her. And so, you know, just time for either a rebuild or replacement or something. And I guess let's talk a little bit about what I've done with it since I picked it up. So took it on about 150-mile drive from when we bought it, left Drew in Denver, and drove it back here, and it did not miss a beat. Sat at 75, even 80 miles an hour, no problem. The speedometer's off by about 4 miles an hour, which isn't bad. Some new cars are off by about that much, so that seems pretty good. The what else should I tell you? Self-canceling turn signals. And then I've just kind of been driving it around daily, getting to know it, really starting to figure this thing out. And it's been wonderful. Everyone loves it. I've gotten so many thumbs up with it. Saw some off-roading guys earlier today, and they were all like, no way, that's awesome. And yeah, I truly love the way this thing drives. So, other issues, the 12-volt sockets don't work. You got one, Alyssa? Oh, Sprouts. Okay, 12-volt sockets don't work, but she's been great just to commute around to the office and things like that. Let me tell you a little bit about the history of Judy, and I'm just going to continue for her drive because I'll talk about the history of Judy. Judy was purchased originally new by a Land Rover importer into the U.S. market. It was a U.S. spec vehicle, but I don't think there were dealers back then or anything. This was in 1991, and she was bought by a pilot who put 50, 60,000 miles on it, had it serviced regularly. I have the log books of everything, and so that's perfect. Then it went to a real estate agent named Judith, who owned it in Big Bear. She was an older woman, and you would think Big Bear, salt, and mountains, but no rust at all. We'll throw it into top gear now. And she had it serviced at a Land Rover dealer, you know, out of warranty, just every little thing that popped up, until one day when the Wabco brake booster went, and the Land Rover dealer said, there's nothing we can do, we can't get the parts anymore. And I think this was only maybe 5 or 6 years ago. She had it for a really long time. And yeah, so the guy who bought it, who I got in contact with, sold her a new vehicle. And then he just bought it from Judith. I think she wanted to give him the Range Rover for free. This was back when they were worth nothing. And I think he paid her $500 for this thing. He then went through and drove it around, and the brakes didn't work, so he would slow down with the manual handbrake, I guess, just to keep things running. And that's no wonder the handbrake's pretty loose. It's been worn down. So eventually some guy came into his Land Rover dealership and said, hey, what are you doing with that Classic? He's like, the brakes don't work. No problem. By this point, they've kind of come back in, you know, starting to creep up in value, and he rebuilt the brake booster for the Land Rover employee who owned this car. And then it worked fine. It was great. He said he had to put a new headliner in it, so we have a brand new headliner, no sag. It's been wonderful. A few other things that have been done to it that he just kind of kept up with, and nothing major, just drove it, maintained it. It's been, again, a really good example. And then he sold it to the guy who fixed the brake booster for a year. Then that guy sold it back to him. During that time period, the factory Hella lights, I think, were stolen. And so we have aftermarket driving lights. I'm going to try and find the originals to get it back to that spec. And then some woman bought it in California who is a British car enthusiast. He didn't want to sell it, the Land Rover employee, but this woman, I guess, was like, you got to sell me the truck, like, I want it. And that was pretty much the owner that we got it from. Somehow it ended up in Colorado. I'm not sure on the last quick bit of history. I'm sure I could find out. But Hugh, who we bought it from, was given this vehicle by his boss. His boss was in California. I'm not sure if he's friends with the woman who bought it from the Land Rover employee, but basically from the Land Rover employee to me, only about 3,000 miles have been put on the clock. So pretty much I am like the fourth owner, if you will, more or less. I think fourth registered owner I'll be. And it's got the factory CD player. That's all from new. It's got I have the code for the radio. This works, by the way. So we just crank it up, and then well, bad station, but it works. And so I am just loving driving it around. You can see she drives great to cruise in. There's that 1-2 clunk a little bit, but it's a Range Rover. If everything's perfect, then we're going to be missing something. It's going to have some issues. And so there's Judy. My 1 week ownership update has been wonderful. I've just been compiling a list of all of the problems, what's to come in the future. Well, we got to get new tires on this thing. I want to have it fully serviced, front to back, open checkbook. Let's get it right. Once it's right, then I can maintain it. Make sure all the fluids are perfect. Make sure transmission's been looked over. Maybe it needs the transfer case tightened, things like this. And that's really what's to come. There seems to be a great shop in the Colorado Springs area that focuses on these, and that is where I'm going to be bringing it down to. So I'll drive it down there when we get back from some trips. We'll have them service Judy, and yeah, that's that. I guess the full story on why it's named Judy is the Land Rover employee, his kids, who I'll insert an article here that I saw Judy pictured in. That's how I found out who this guy was. Basically, that's what they named the Range Rover, and man, does it just drive so great. The brakes are one of the best things about this. I've had the dogs in the back. It's proper dog hauler, of course, and it's gotten a little bit of pollen if you look over here on the hood, but nothing really that can't be just washed off. Really loving it. We'll have, very infrequent updates on this. This is really just a passion of mine, but I have been daily driving it. I hope to continue to do so. Hope to add more classics to the garage over time, because I love, celebrating why I am into cars today. And this is a large part of what I love about even modern Range Rover. It all started right here in the past. And it's really, really wonderful. No rattles, no squeaks, and gets I don't even know what kind of fuel economy, and I'm not sure how accurate the fuel gauge is, because I'll end the video with this story. Right after we picked it up from Hugh, Drew and I went to the gas station because it was on E, it was on empty. We're like, oh, let's fill up. As we're pulling into the pump, it dies. The whole thing shuts off, and we're like, I don't know if it just stalled, but nope, it just ran out of gas completely. So pretty funny situation that we literally died inching into the pump. I didn't touch any pedals. We stopped right when the pump was at the fuel tank side. Good thing we got the fuel tank side correctly. And that's that. We're just running errands today in Judy. And really just pleased that I own this thing. Can't wait to share more updates with you. Maybe once every couple months or something like that, I'll talk about it. And if you guys, a lot of people want me to convert this to electric. What do you think about that, Alyssa?
No.
Why?
Because that's not what it is.
Okay.
It's not an electric car.
Yeah, but I think it'd be kind of cool to convert it to electric one day. I can see us doing that.
But then it just takes the whole history away from it.
No, it's not known for its engine.
But the noise, the experience.
I mean, I can drop it in a second and give it some beans.
Yeah.
It doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Not like it's really known for its rapid performance. Anyway, there you go. No cup holders. Rolling in Judy. XC40 Recharge coming our way. Looking good. And that's that. Pulling into Sprouts. Thanks for watching another Out of Spec Reviews video. Thanks for joining me on a drive in my new old Range Rover. And yeah, I'll update you, of course, when we get it serviced. I'll probably do like a here's what's wrong with the Range Rover and here's how we fixed it video. See you on the next one.